Doug, let's talk about the reaction in Iran. The Supreme Leader has been saying that his country intends to continue complying with the nuclear deal for the time being. So what do you make of that wording? Does it suggest perhaps that Iran will quit the deal soon?
Well, listen, let's read it literally. Iran, and let's be very clear about this, it is said it intends for the time being to continue complying with the 2015 Iran nuclear accord, something that the Europeans are also hoping it will continue to do. It's also made it clear that this announcement today does not mean that Iran believes that its talks, its negotiations with Europe to try to help the Europeans to stay in the deal, to make sure that they continue to honor the deal, that those talks have failed. So right now, what this really is if you want to see it as a sort of a warning shot, perhaps a first warning shot across the bow, that Iran cannot indefinitely stick to a deal that the biggest signatory, the United States, is unilaterally withdrawn from. There's a limit. You know, we always knew that this was a very finely balanced deal. Finely balanced in the sense that it was painstakingly negotiated, and it's always had, from day one, very ardent opponents in Iran itself, not least of which has been the clerical establishment, the very hardline clerical establishment, the conservatives in Iran, all arrayed against the so-called moderate president, Hassan Rouhani, who has been very much the advocate and the partisan, the proponent of this deal. So it's been very finely balanced. And what we're really seeing is sort of pouring fire on the flames. When Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew, it took a very delicate situation and it created the potential for something to quickly unravel. But I do think that Iran is not doing anything surprising, and it's not doing anything that it said it wouldn't do in the first place. Why did Iran agree to this deal in the first place? It was very simple, because it said so. It wanted to end its diplomatic isolation. It wanted to have a lifting of the international sanctions that had been crippling, if not paralyzing, its economy. It wanted to come back into the international global fold in return for curbing its uranium enrichment. If it's no longer going to be able to do business with European companies, if it's no longer going to be able to enjoy the economic benefits it's reaped since 2015, since actually 2016 when it went into effect, if it's not going to be able to do this, Iran's point of view is, why should we stick in a deal that isn't working for us any longer? So it's ramping up the pressure on Europe to try to stay in the deal and to honor its vows to make this deal work.
And as for Netanyahu in Europe, you think he has a clear agenda then of his own?
Yeah, he has a clear agenda. Benjamin Netanyahu's agenda has been to make this deal, make sure this deal never happens, does not work. Neither Donald Trump nor Benjamin Netanyahu, despite all of the lofty rhetoric about all of these new parts of the deal, have any plan B. They don't really want to see a plan B. I don't even think they realistically believe that any of these new conditions set, supposedly by Donald Trump, the ballistic missiles, the diminishing Iran's influence throughout the region, all of that, I don't even think they think it's a realistic prospect that Iran has any chance, given the current fragile balance in Iranian society, of ever being able to abide by those extremely stringent terms. It's the reason that the original negotiators, the ones who I just said, spent so many years negotiated, purposely, deliberately left out of the deal. They focused on the nuclear issues because, as diplomats know, you have to be realistic. They want to achieve something, and something was better than nothing. The Europeans continue to believe that the deal's working. They continue to believe it's the only mechanism out there, the only vehicle out there that is going to perhaps keep Iran from having a nuclear weapon. And right now, from Iran's standpoint, that is a proposition that perhaps it's not ready to continue abiding by. So right now, what's going to happen with the Europeans? They're under a lot of pressure. They might have to be forced to pull out of this deal at some point. We've already seen big companies such as Airbus, such as Siemens, such as Total, and Peugeot also announcing they're either suspending or winding down their operations in Iran because they just don't want to or can't afford to sacrifice the U.S. market.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Doug.